It doesn't matter if you talk through text, sign language, or some abstract voice. When you communicate, you aim for understanding. And I think this is where my teen romantic comedy, or short Oregairu, shines most. When we communicate, we try to deliver a message and wish for a lossless transmission. If our counterpart received our original message, then we have created understanding. But lossless transmission is obviously impossible the more difficult your message is, since there are other aspects to consider. The words you choose, the context you say them, or the intention you express. In the end, our messages are doomed along the journey, and to avoid misunderstandings, we still try to consider all those points. But the more considerate you become, the more difficult it becomes for you to balance all those arguments and find the right words. Especially when one argument gets priority. That's why Sofa narrows down communication very well in his book Say What You Mean, which I will use in this video, because Oregairu does likewise highlight a few aspects. From all the perspectives to consider when communicating, the anime shows us which are important for genuine and true mutual understanding. It reminds us, with mutual understanding comes friendship and love.
そのセリフは友達いないやつのセリフだわ。ソースは俺。お前人に好かれそうなくせに友達いないとかどういうことだよ。
あなたにはわからないわよ。
What happens when you are misunderstood? If it's something easy to explain, you can set it right. Or just outright refuse to do so. Either way, it's a choice about connection. And if the stakes are high, a misunderstanding can break a connection. In this situation, we tend to blame or judge. In other words, we think we understand. We subjectively explain and correct our misunderstandings by ourselves with our own views. We disregard our counterpart and with it, our connection with them. When losing connection to others have caused enough damage on us, we form a habit and get a narrow tunnel vision on things. We start to think that we understand how it works now. We have seen through the system. But that's the moment where a devilish loop happens. Sofa describes the loop as this. Our intentions, views, and experiences reinforce each other. Views determine intentions. Intentions shape experiences, and experiences confirm our views. Shifting our view, therefore, can change our intentions and our experience. Let's pretend we are Hachiman, and our view is that Gahama talks to us because she feels guilty about the car accident, not because she wants to connect. Therefore, we intend to push her away. We don't want that kind of shallow connection, and say that she doesn't have to feel guilty about it. Now, if we experience that she reacts with distance and stops talking to us, we feel that our views are confirmed. But while holding onto one firmly chiseled point of view, we ignore the other perspectives, which could have led us to a better ending. That's why it feels relieving when the misunderstanding between Gahama and Hachiman is cleared up. Not only do we learn the truth, with a new perspective, we are given the opportunity to connect and understand each other again with prospects of new experiences. But what about the situations where we are right? We judge somebody, and through deduction we hit the right spot. If that's the case, then it isn't a misunderstanding. We start to understand the other person. In the school rooftop scene, the audience hasn't been given a proof if Hachiman was right or wrong. It's implied that he's right, but we don't get a statement of the dark red bob-haired girl. What was her name again? And while this scene feels good about being on the right side, it shows us a key aspect about understanding another person. It's your own choice whether you decide on hurting somebody or create a new relationship. It's something powerful that you can interact with, and it has nothing to do with the system. So first book summarizes that communication is driven by feelings, which arise from personal needs. The easiest example would be that you want to confess to somebody because you love that person, since you have a personal wish for a close relationship. A more concrete example would be that you say thank you to your friend because you are feeling grateful, since your need for a good friendship has been fulfilled. And the more you understand a person, the more you know about their needs and wishes. Ultimately, conflicts arise where needs can't be met or wishes stay unfulfilled. We often deal with this situation by avoiding it. BL Lover avoids that guy because she knows that she can't fulfill his wish. Mr. Business English and Iroha are avoiding crucial decisions because they are unsure about achieving the goal of a satisfying outcome for everybody on the Christmas project. The aim and hope of conflict avoidance is usually to keep the peace. It's not that BL Lover doesn't care for that guy's feelings. On the contrary, she knows about those feelings, but she has personal wishes which are important enough for her to say no. If she wouldn't have any preventing needs, or if she would ignore her own needs, she could just roll with it. But saying no would result in the unfulfillment of her friendship wishes. That's a conflict. Yukino and Gahama disliked Hachiman's method to solve BL Lover's conflict. They both wish for his well-being. They start to care about him. But Hachiman's methods has often made him become the target of resentment and gossip so far. He tries to justify himself, staying firmly to his view, but that just pushes Yukino and Gahama farther away from him. The three of them encounter a situation where they don't understand each other. Hachiman doesn't understand why his well-being is so important for them, and they don't understand why he can't change his methods or even considers alternatives. It is only after he discusses his situation with his sister that he recognizes that Yukino and Gahama didn't have enough opportunities yet to understand him better like his sister does. So, he takes up a responsibility for his sister's sake and tries to make up for his missed opportunity to explain why he is how he is. And he pulled through. Kind of. He gave his best. And although it was at first for his sister's sake, he ultimately considered Gahama's and Yukino's wishes. For somebody who became the embodiment of a social zombie, starting to take consideration of others is a big change in personality, which should be celebrated. Hachiman came close to a perfect way of reducing the not understanding gap, but he still misses to see a crucial point. After being kidnapped by his teacher, she explains to him a base principle about human connections. Humans are doomed to hurt each other. If we care about somebody, we notice that we have hurt them. If we don't notice it, then we don't care. It's a chaotic fact, but on the other hand, it proves to Hachiman that he cares for Gahama and Yukino. He realizes now that his actions are driven by a force he didn't notice yet. Whatever is happening, we can get curious about the deeper human needs and values beneath our words or actions. Back home, he searches for what his wish is, and after meditating and finding it, he also has a clear intention about what to do next.
一つ依頼がしたい。
ヒッキー、ちゃんと話してくれるんだ。
手伝ってもらいたいんだが。
けれど。
いや、言いたいことはわかる。
If we are not consciously choosing our intention, we are on automatic, relying on unconscious, habitual patterns. The difficulties of decisions can be as easy as to choose between 2 coffee drinks and as hard as to decide on giving up one person to follow another. However, Bodegaru doesn't dive deep down into the topic but points upward and shows us something else. If you are inclined to think about decisions though, then I recommend you to watch this video. So, life is full of choices. We get that. But we don't need to always meditate about what to choose, since the decisions we have to make differ in difficulty and we all rely on something to help us making fast decisions. It can be ideals, preferences, or just intuition. If we rely on that long enough, it becomes a habit. And when it becomes a habit, we are on autopilot whenever that kind of decision comes up. But remember the loop. Preferences determine decisions, which result in specific outcomes. When on autopilot, our preferences are already set before we even think about it, resulting in the same decisions with the same outcomes. We are overlooking the alternative views. We are having tunnel vision. Doesn't that sound familiar? Hachiman, Yukino and Gahama complement each other. If there was a problem one couldn't solve, the other 2 were able to help. They relied on each other, and one could say that they were
共依存っていうのよ。
What is the course of action now? What is the right thing to do? Is it so wrong to help somebody you care for? What if you regret your decision afterwards? If you haven't found a solution that would make everyone happy, then you have fallen for Yukino's sister's trap. Luckily for Hachiman, he doesn't have to think about it. He just gets kidnapped by his teacher again. Humans like simple terms with definitions. It helps us to understand and it can guide us faster through problems. But when we are relying on terms of right or wrong, or other terms, then we are chained down by them, seeing the world only through those terms. In life, we collect many experiences, and some of them are similar, or even the same to the experiences of others. We then use special terms to communicate faster what we mean, relying on the thought that you and your counterpart have the same understanding of the term. But words shouldn't hold us back from the experiences we can potentially achieve. And words shouldn't cut off important corners of our experiences just so that we can proudly use those words. Hachiman's teacher uses love for something pretty vague, and I think that's kind of funny. Humans use the word love a lot. That word is like a special, reliable placeholder. But when you have reached a high mutual understanding with someone, you don't care very much about the words that are said anymore. When there is something genuinely important that you want your counterpart to know, then you wish for a lossless transmission of your feelings. Your words, just carry them. When you want to connect with another person, the first step is to understand each other. Then, being aware of each other's needs and wishes. After that, try to keep an open mind, especially if it looks narrow and you think the future can only go one way right now. But even after that, you can't just relax.
共感と慣れ合いと好奇心と哀れみと尊敬と嫉妬とそれ以上の感情を一人の女の子に抱けたらそれはきっと好きってだけじゃ足りない。
どうですかね。わからないですけど、だからずっと疑い続けます。
It does sound harsh to be always skeptical about your situation, but it has something optimistic for me at least. We can't fully understand another person unless we are the other person. Nevertheless, it's worth trying to do so when you want to reach an ultimate goal with somebody. If your attempt failed, think about what happened. Understand it. Maybe change your approach and then try again. Consider more than one view. If you think you can reach it alone, you may do so. But with help, you'll see that other people can improve your experiences on Earth. Let loose from your restricted views from time to time. Stop seeing fakes and enemies everywhere. Try to find and feel more than just mistrust. Get drunk on the full spectrum of emotions. It would be a waste of a life otherwise. Humans define that love is the apex of a social relationship. But did humans stop when they climbed the highest mountain on Earth? We should and can reach for a place where no definitions has been made yet.
Have you ever loved? Would you go again? Don't be down when it's over, baby. I'll be your man. I'll be your man.